Coming up next on Tech News Today, Oracle has acquired DNS provider Dyn. Also, Apple is moving on from its router business. Instagram is getting into live video. There are the challenges that face food delivery startups on the internet. We'll talk all about those. And playing a game to help with research for dementia. All that and more coming up next on Tech News Today.
This is Twit. Bandwidth for Tech News Today is provided by CashFly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is Tech News Today, episode 1646, recorded Monday, November 21st, 2016. This episode of Tech News Today is brought to you by Harry's, for guys who want a great shave experience for a fraction of what you're paying now. And just in time for the holidays, get $5 off the limited edition holiday set at harrys.com and use the code TNT.
And by Grasshopper. Stay connected and run your business from your mobile phone with Grasshopper. To save $50 on your order, visit trygrasshopper.com/twit. Welcome to Tech News Today. This is a show where we talk about everything you need to know about technology. And we are the liver and onions of tech news.
Oh, I'm totally onions, aren't I?
I'm the liver, and you're the onions.
I was just saying right before the show started how much I hate like raw onions. So that's the worst thing I could possibly be in the world is an onion.
I'm sorry.
As far as I'm concerned.
I meant like a cooked onion, a caramelized onion.
In that case, I'm happy to accept the onion.
I am actually Megan Maroney.
And I'm Jason Howell. And let's not talk about food. Well, at least not yet. We've got food coming up later in the show. Let's talk about technology right now.
Sounds good. Oracle just announced that it has acquired DNS provider Dyn for a reported sum of over $600 million. That's according to Fortune. Dyn, you might remember, is the internet traffic company that suffered the massive distributed denial of service attack in October that brought down a large part of the internet and was apparently caused by our addiction to our Internet of Things devices. Dyn's 35-year-old CEO says that the company survived their startup phase by adding a donut button to the website they created from their college dorm rooms.
You said donut.
Donut. Did I say donut?
Yeah,
button?
You said donut button.
Donut button.
But I really like the idea of a donut button. It made me kind of hungry.
Donate. And I guess donuts were involved as well. I am apparently hungry. This is a great story and a success story. They started it as an open source project. He and his co-founder, and it's exciting. And they're a big company. Their customers include Netflix, Twitter, Pfizer, CNBC. I am guessing that the DDoS attack happened maybe after the deal was already in the works, and it is a sad headline for an inspiring story because like every headline,
I know, right? Based purely on the time that this happened.
Yeah.
But yeah, I did read somewhere that it was confirmed that the deal was kind of in talks prior to this, and that should remind you that wasn't necessarily a representation of a fault on Dyn's part necessarily. They were just simply overwhelmed by the massive amount of traffic that they were getting from IoT. So I don't even know if that would have necessarily kind of affected the bottom line as far as this deal was concerned. Everybody has a lot of really positive things to say, that do business with Dyn. I saw a lot of very negative sentiment in researching this story just around Oracle in general. Is like, dang it, takes another thing that I love. What am I going to have to do now because they're going to screw it up? And that's not my sentiment. That just seemed to be a lot of people share that sentiment, are not very happy about Oracle specifically being the ones that now control this company.
Yeah, and Oracle is, of course, trying to build out its cloud computing business quickly. So that's what this purchase is about.
Yeah, 3,500 cloud customers. And then, once you've got them in the door, they can all be upsold to other Oracle cloud services, competing with Amazon AWS. So, yeah, big get for Oracle, obviously. Sources to Mark Gurman of Bloomberg are saying that Apple has given up on its wireless router business as it aims to refocus on its biggest revenue drivers across the board. Its Airport series of routers saw regular updates in past years, but hasn't actually been updated since 2013. And the transition of the team has reportedly been taking place over the course of the past year. So Apple kind of focusing again on things that are really, things have slowed down in certain ways when it comes to Apple's business. So they are just kind of focusing.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we can look at them focusing on what they do best, or maybe they're going to come up with some sort of hub, like a HomeKit-enabled hub.
That would make sense.
That would also be a router. But I mean, there's so many. Eero's a Twit sponsor, like so many companies like that do the mesh wireless networking. That I mean, I used Eero for a while. It was great. Everyone said that airports were just like they weren't as good as your regular router.
We have an airport at home. We have an airport. Is it the Airport Extreme? I can't remember. We've had it for so long, and it's just like sitting there. And actually, we've had really great experience with it. We've hardly had any strange issues or downtime, unexpected downtime with it or anything like that. So I've been pretty happy with that. Having said that, Google Home's router is right around the corner. That's coming out, and that is kind of the like an Eero competitor, a mesh potential. You can interconnect multiples of them. So I'll be getting that to kind of play around, and it'll be interesting to me to kind of compare them to what I'm very used to with the airport routers. And like I say, I've had really good experience kind of compare and contrast.
Well, let me ask you, because I always had good experience until I started to have 5 people in my house that all wanted to stream different Netflix shows at the same time.
Okay.
Or play an online game. And, I like with each new person that wants to watch YouTube while you're watching something else, it gets like slower and slower until we had to get something else that really covered the whole house. So
I didn't really notice that. I don't have a number like. There's rarely, if ever, a time that all 4 of us are, streaming video at the same time.
Then you're not really a family.
Not yet.
Until
we're
you're in
a
your
family.
separate rooms with your own iPads, you can't even call yourself a family.
I'm watching YouTube. Yeah, we have that to look forward to.
Apple says they will replace the faulty battery in your iPhone 6S, or at least some of your iPhone 6Ss out there. They will replace models manufactured between September and October of last year. And those are models that suddenly quit without warning when they should have enough battery to last several more hours. And Apple says they will replace them for no extra charge. So yesterday they launched a support program. It's limited serial numbers, and on many different places on the Apple website, they made sure to point out that there's no damage could be caused. It's not going to catch fire or anything.
I know. That's like at the very top of their notice, too. It's like, by the way, there's no damage. Don't worry. Just stand out.
Just stops. Doesn't catch your house on fire.
Now they did point out that you would possibly have to pay, obviously, if there were other things wrong with your phone. For example, if you had a cracked screen or something like that, that would actually need to be repaired before you could get any of this work done. So you may be fine with operating your phone with a cracked screen, but in order to get the battery replaced, you're going to have to take care of that, and that's probably going to cost you something. And apparently, this program is going to last for 3 years after they say the first unit was sold, which. I mean, that would set it somewhere around September 2018, I think. So there you go. Apple's undoing, or at least taking care of things in multiple different ways for some of their iPhones that are having issues, and that's a good thing. Amazon is working hard to make its video offerings more appealing to Prime subscribers. The Wall Street Journal says that the company is pursuing deals to get major live sporting events on the service, with talks underway with the NBA, MLB, and NFL, to name just a few. Part of the talks hint at an exclusive sports package, which could be purchased as an additional component to the Prime subscription in an effort to, of course, appeal to new users, which... I think when it comes to cord cutting, we talked about this before, sports is just, man, that's a category that if you can capture that, you are going to appeal to a lot of people that would not have thought about it otherwise. So this is a pretty critical kind of area to move into at this point.
Yeah, and so, it won't be free, it sounds like,
right.
But it'll be part of that skinny bundle, the elusive skinny bundle. But I don't know how they're going to do it. Like, so many premium rights are already tied up. They have all these different deals that are already in place and are in place for a long time. So I'll be interested to see how they'll do it.
Well, yeah, like when you take Twitter, for example, Twitter has its NFL kind of deal going on right now. And as far as I could tell from what I was reading today, that pretty much you get to the end of the season and then that potentially opens up and Twitter either does the deal again or someone like Amazon can kind of swoop in or whatever. I don't know. Maybe the sports, the leagues are open to making these different deals just to spread it far and wide, but not give give away all of that, content. It ends up probably being like, yeah, you get a game a week. You get one of the games a week, and that's better than nothing at all. And that might be good enough for some people who, would consider Amazon. Although I'd love to see more. I mean, I would love to see more games online, streamed live. More options are always better.
Not for me. I could care less.
I know. You're not a big fan of sports ball. And to be honest, I don't really follow sports ball very much now, but part of that is because I've cut the cord and I don't really have the option to, and because it's not in front of me, I care less. But if I had that option, I would consider ponying up for it. They're also wanting to bring in cricket, hockey, surf, and a bunch of other sports to appeal kind of in a more global sense. Amazon's really kind of focused on a global expansion of its video service. So that's going to help it do that.
I could get behind cricket for sure.
Oh, okay. See, we found the sport that you care about.
Does it involve crickets?
No.
Okay.
It does not.
Okay. Instagram is launching a few new features today in what the company's director of product calls a pivot. Talking to TechCrunch, the Instagram rep said the company wants to be part of all of your moments, not just your highlights. To that end, you will now be able to stream live on your Instagram story, and you can stream live videos to friends and groups through Instagram Direct, and then those videos will disappear faster than you can say Snapchat. The ephemeral quality of the videos is meant to create a sense of urgency in your Snapchat friends and followers. So knowing that it's going to disappear, is that going to send you more quickly to my story, Jason?
I feel like this is less about creating a platform for content creators and more just about being a communication tool. That's what this really seems like to me. They even, in some of the stuff that I was reading, they said Instagram Live was inspired by young people who, after school, simply want to continue hanging out, and we'll do that in the form of a live stream. When you put it that way, it seems weird for me to think about somebody doing that and putting it up on Periscope for everyone to see, including the people that they actually intended for to see, versus something like this, which is maybe a little bit narrower of a cast and really ends up just being like, hey, I'm hanging out with my friends, but we're not in the same space, so we're just kind of doing it here. Maybe that's what the kids are doing these days. I don't know.
That is what the kids are doing these days. I happen to have some of them.
Yeah.
But I think all of these changes are designed for the kids and the way kids really used Snapchat and made Snapchat popular. And I think Instagram realized that they weren't pleasing the right demographic, and that's what I think this change is about. I mean, I think that a lot of teenagers and high schoolers on Instagram, and maybe older than that, were culling their feeds. They were, instead of just leaving everything up there as we adults would, they would take them down. So there's only 10 or 15 pictures up there, and that was really just a way of saying this is who I am right now. And as a teenager, you're changing so fast that I think that that's what they did, and it's also I love and I've always loved about Snapchat is that ability to post something that's not going to last forever. And that has everyone always first looks at the negative of that, oh, what are my kids doing that I can't see, or sending sexts and all that. But the positive side of it is that it really doesn't allow for this constant, I have to look this certain way. My whatever I'm doing right now is going to be looked at by my people who are, going to hire me or not hire me 10, 15 years from now. Those of us who grew up before any of this, we didn't have that, and it was great. And we all joke about if YouTuber was around when I was in college, and it's true. And nobody should have that weight of the silly mistakes that they make as a kid being just something that they always have to think about. At the same time, someone could, if you're putting something online, it doesn't matter if it's, ephemeral on Instagram or Snapchat, someone could save it and share it. So you always still sort of have to think about that.
Yeah, I like what you were saying about that. It really kind of seems to go back to, especially when you're talking about the younger set who this is probably designed for, or at least that's what Instagram said, that's specifically what this was designed for initially, is that it represents how they interact when they're person to person anyways. That when I'm hanging out with my friends in real life, unless one of us is actually videotaping it, it's never on my mind that what I'm doing right now, making this face at you, is going to be on, live on forever and ever and ever online. This is one of those, options to be a digital representation, I suppose, of that. And that's good. There's plenty of space for that in this world. So I like it. Up next, a look at the tough road for Munchery. But before we talk about that, I told you we were going to talk about food. Before we talk about that, let's take a minute to thank Harry's. They're the sponsor of this episode. Holiday shopping can be stressful. I know. I started weeks ago, and it hasn't gotten any easier. Finding a thoughtful gift that's also useful and practical can feel impossible, but look no further. Harry's is the perfect gift. If you haven't heard of them before, Harry's was started by two best friends, Jeff and Andy, who were fed up with being overcharged for razors. So they started their own razor company to give people what they deserve, a great shave at a fair price. And this holiday, Harry's is offering a limited edition shaving set, midnight blue chrome razor handle, which you can get engraved with initials, 3 of Harry's German-engineered 5-blade cartridges that provide a close, comfortable shave. There's foaming shave gel that smells awesome. There's beautifully designed gift box, so it's going to look nice when they unwrap it from under the Christmas tree. Goes for $30 on harrys.com, but this is a special offer for fans of this show. We partnered with Harry's to give you $5 off your order when you visit harrys.com and enter the code TNT at checkout. I've really enjoyed Harry's in my time using it for the past couple of years, so much so that actually I think it was last Christmas and the Christmas before is when I first gifted my dad a box of Harry's, and then last year I kind of gave him some refill and some extra stuff. So he's been super stoked. Now he's using it all the time. So it's just an obvious no-brainer gift for the person that you're having a hard time buying a gift for. Here you go. We made it easier for you. They also offer handles and sets starting at just $10. If you haven't tried Harry's for yourself, they've got different blades and handles of all different prices, so you can check out their options. Just go to harrys.com right now to get $5 off a limited edition holiday shave set while supplies last. And don't forget to enter the code TNT at checkout. Free shipping ends on December 9th, so you want to act now to get that. That's harrys.com. Use the code TNT. And we thank Harry's for their support of Tech News Today. The food delivery service Munchery is undergoing some big changes that they announced today. Joining us to talk about the difficult on-demand food business is Eric, newcomer from Bloomberg Technology. How's it going, Eric?
Great. How are you doing?
Awesome. It's great to have you here. Thanks for joining us. So first of all, how does Munchery differ from other food delivery services? There's all different types of food delivery services online right now. Munchery's a little bit different. Tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, there are a ton of different approaches. Munchery takes we're going to cook it in our kitchens, we're going to package it that night, and then we're going to deliver it to you. Some of it prearranged and then some of it on demand. But the key difference is that they're dealing with the cooking and the delivery. I mean, if you think about Postmates, DoorDash, Uber Eats, those services are mostly delivering restaurant food.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, in this case, is it safe to kind of think of this as a little bit as like it's an internet-enabled restaurant? I mean, they're really just cooking their own food and delivering it, based on orders they're getting through the restaurant. So instead of sitting at a table, you're sitting at your cubicle or whatever, and you're ordering off their menu, and they're just delivering it to you based on food they make. Kind of the same thing?
Right. And I think that was sort of a big part of the challenge with Munchery. It just, it's a sort of tech-run, finance-run company that ultimately is going to have to win over customers based on the quality of its food and managing its food. And, I think it's the classic sort of tech thinks it can solve everything and sort of jumps into a space, and then, we see what happens.
Yeah. So, you point out in the article there's some food waste. There's a big food waste problem. And I mean, I used to work in the restaurant industry for years. I know food waste is just kind of part of, the game that you play when you're in the restaurant industry. But I mean, your sources say that it was a considerable amount. How does a company like this predict and scale appropriately to meet that?
Yeah, I mean, this goes far beyond sort of what's standard for a restaurant. I had sort of firsthand data that showed that they overproduced more than 650,000 meals than they needed over a 22-month period. It was 16% of the meals they made. And I talked to some restaurant experts, and sort of the acceptable range is more around 4 to 10%. So this was definitely atypical. And I was looking at the San Francisco kitchen specifically, and for the most part, I mean, their revenue was fairly consistent. So it's not like things were, changing super dramatically that they didn't sort of understand demand. I think there were issues around, we want to have a sort of a wide set of menu options, so we can't predict demand well on a particular meal. We're also sort of taking on a lot of marketing campaigns. So we're always hopeful, like many startups, always hopeful that growth is right around the corner. And I think that was part of the problem here.
Sure.
Well, so you said that they have more food waste than regular restaurants. I mean, if they're an internet company, a data company, why didn't they have the data to figure out how to reduce food waste? Like, say like Uber. I mean, that's the promise of Uber, right? That they're transforming transportation and they know how many riders they need where. Was Munchery not doing that at all?
Yeah, I think it's, still somewhat of a mystery why they couldn't or didn't care to sort of crack down on this. I think there was a lot of focus on sort of the unit economics in the sense of bringing down the food cost per meal. But there was much less emphasis on figuring out, what are our actual costs today? And I think a lot of it was around the hope that soon that they would be bigger. So it's like, let's build the processes for a bigger business and grow into that. And the company just has had trouble getting the traction where it keeps enough of its customers that it makes sense to produce as much food as it can. So it was really focused on sort of unit economics in the sense, if you exclude sort of their total cost, but not as focused on reducing their total food cost, which I think was bewildering to me, certainly, and to a lot of the former employees that I talked to.
How much of this, you mentioned marketing, and I mean, I have to imagine that's a part of it, right? Like if they're aggressive at their marketing strategy, but it's an ineffective marketing strategy, then they've overproduced to meet this demand that just isn't there. How did that take place?
Yeah, the marketing, I think it's something we have to watch on all of these startups. I mean, they were spending, even in a slide deck I saw, like $450,000, and I think it was Q3 2014, and like $300,000 of it was Facebook ads. And this is a company that could drop several $100,000 in a month just flyering a neighborhood. They would just go out and try to acquire customers, and especially, as some of my sources said, ahead of the fundraising round. So they were using marketing, but didn't seem to be able to keep the customers. Obviously, that becomes a problem.
Sure.
You can get a customer if you offer them $20 off their first purchase, but then do they come back, for the next meal that they have to pay full price for?
Yeah, it's like the Living Social / Groupon flaw. It's
Yeah,
like,
I've
great,
seen
you
that
got
one.
this customer, but it's not worth anything to you anymore.
So this isn't really a technical question or a technology question, unless you consider the effect of these startups, these tech startups on San Francisco as a city. But did they, do you know if they donated the food or if they just threw it away? Do you have any idea what they did with all of that food waste?
Yeah, Munchery says they donate all the food. And the former employees I spoke with definitely say they donate some of the food. Those former employees say Munchery also throws some of the food away. It's hard to trace, an exact line of custody from the wasted food to where it happened, where it goes. There are a couple charities in play. Some of the charities that Munchery has mentioned donating to don't even serve as much food as Munchery wastes. But, I can't say definitively what percentage gets thrown away. All I can say is that, my sources said some of it gets thrown away, some of it gets donated. The company says all of it gets donated, but it's sort of an open question, what percentage of those meals are getting to the homeless or other people.
Right.
Because that's something that really frustrates me, because I think that a lot of people think, there's this general idea that you can't donate food from restaurants, and that's not true. Like right. It's because you're afraid of getting sued. That's the thing. Like, I can't donate this food because I might get sued if someone gets sick. But like, there was a law passed in 1996. Bill Clinton posted, it was the Bill Emerson Good Samaritan Food Act. So restaurants can, in good faith, donate the food, and if someone gets sick, they can't be blamed or sued for it. So that's just my 2 cents on that.
They should do that better.
That's right.
So obviously today there was also news of a new CEO at Munchery. That's must be a reaction to all these troubles. What do we know about the new CEO's vision for kind of like how to move the company in a different direction?
Yeah, I think he was the former CEO of Simply Hired. It's James, and I'm going to get the last name wrong, so I'm going to avoid it. But I think he's sort of a turnaround guy. definitely a technical co-founder, which I got some texts of surprise from some of the former people there, because I think their question has been, isn't this a food company? Like, doesn't it need more of a food focus? But, I think, he certainly had some success selling small tech startups to some of the bigger technology companies. So I would imagine that might be the hope for some of the investors. But yeah, so total regime change. The founding CEO is going to sort of be, I think, the head of strategy, but stepping aside as CEO.
James Barraker, I believe.
Thanks. Yes, you're
no problem. So, I mean, one thing that I've seen time and time again, and I mean, dating back as far as like the early 2000s, late 1999 time period in Silicon Valley, is that food and the internet have such a complicated history when it comes to like delivery and all that kind of stuff. Why does it continue to be so challenging? Is it that Silicon Valley doesn't understand food? Like they think, well, we've got the money, we've got the technical smarts, this should be easy, but in fact, they're two completely different industries?
It's mind-boggling to me, because I mean, this is a space that, certainly when I first started seeing these companies crop up, I was like, we've been here before with Webvan and other sort of on-demand food delivery companies. So it was surprising. I think there's certainly a herd mentality to it. I mean, if you look at 2015 food investing, there was like $4 billion invested. And that's compared to like 700 million, if I have my numbers right, in 2013. So like very steep jump in food investment internationally. And I think there's a level of, okay, this space has been legitimized by a few smart investors making bets in the space. We need to have our food delivery bet as well. And then everyone's sort of trying to find their own strategy. And, it's possible that none of them sort of find an effective business model. Mm-hmm. Now, I wouldn't go that far. I think there, still could be some successful food delivery companies, but, it might very well be Uber and not a totally new company that sort of a separate pool of investors are going to land on.
And they already have some sort of already working infrastructure that, or some sort of support in other ways. Yeah. Eric, it's a pleasure getting you on. Thanks so much for joining us today. Eric Newcomer with Bloomberg Tech. Where do you want people to find you online?
You can find me on Twitter at Eric Newcomer. If you go to my profile there, you can follow our new technology newsletter called Fully Charged. So that's probably the best place to hear from me every week.
Excellent. Thanks so much, Eric. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Have a good night.
So we got some mail. Neo wrote in about our discussion of Apple keeping call logs on iCloud. He wrote, if Apple did not do this, their ecosystem would be hindered and not offer cross-device usability. For example, I sync all my iMessages across my MacBook, iMac, iPhone, and iPad. Now, Apple acknowledged that the call logs are being synced and said it's intentional. Furthermore, with iOS 10 and CallKit built in, users are able to download applications such as Truecaller, which functions almost as a system app itself since Apple finally gave developers API access to CallKit. This app and others give the user automatic call spam blocking and caller ID. Before iOS 10, you would have to jailbreak your phone and use another app for similar functionality. If you're in the U.S., large carriers retain call logs for a year or more indiscriminately if it's an iPhone or not.
Yeah, I get it. But I just think more control is better than no control. But I understand. I totally get the point. Is probably more of an ecosystem thing. Everything plays nice if it's all or nothing, in the case of iCloud and everything. But I mean, do you have the ability to limit anything versus other things with iCloud, or is it literally sign up for iCloud, everything gets backed up that we cover? Like, is there any sort of willy-nilly, like, I don't want that, I do want that? Sort of thing?
You mean like photos or calls or things like that? I don't know. That's a good question. I know within calls you can't specifically say I don't want numbers and I don't want contacts, but that's a really good question. I don't know. I mean, I'm assuming you can not have your photos backed up if you don't want to.
I would hope so. I mean, because when it's a backup solution for you as a user, like there are certain things that I find important, or certain things that maybe I don't want synced to the cloud versus somebody else. So I'm just saying, the choice is good.
Patrick says you have the option to limit iCloud. I don't know exactly how how that
To
works.
what detail?
Yeah, I know you can turn off backup and sync, which is what we talked about when we talked about the story, and then everything is not backed up. But
Okay,
I think.
And Patrick's even saying I don't do phone backups to iCloud, so that kind of goes counter to the story a little bit. But
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, can you do text? Because I like getting my text messages on everything.
right,
But yeah, I mean, I think the point is that Apple said this. They said
Yeah.
they do this. It wasn't a secret.
For sure.
But I think that when they say like you have end-to-end encryption, just you have to remember like that is on your device.
Right.
And if you're backing up, then it can be turned over to the authorities. After the break, a video game that could help fend off dementia. But first, let's take a minute to thank Grasshopper, the sponsor of this episode. Grasshopper is a virtual phone system designed for entrepreneurs. Grasshopper works just like a traditional phone system, but it requires no hardware purchase and no software installation. With their iOS and Android apps, callers can reach you wherever you are on your mobile phone. Grasshopper allows you to keep your existing number so you can maintain your brand. When you make a call, your client will see your Grasshopper caller ID instead of your personal phone number. Simply select a toll-free or local number, then record a custom greeting and add multiple extensions for your business. Now, toll-free numbers are great for marketing, and they also make your business sound more professional, even if you're running it out of your garage. Set up department and employee extensions with custom call forwarding to any phone in the world. Get voicemails emailed to you as audio attachments. You can also send and receive SMS text messages from your business number. Grasshopper already has over 250,000 customers, so try it yourself. Plans start at just $12 a month, and you have a 30-day money-back guarantee. So turn your smartphone into a business line with Grasshopper. To save $50 on your order, go to trygrasshopper.com/twit. That's trygrasshopper.com/twit, and we thank Grasshopper for their support.
All right, TNT's fan of the day is Joel Bancroft Connors, who sent us how I listen to TNT, to TNT at twit.tv. He says, I get up at 5 a.m. to drive to work, and so I listen to the previous day as I drive to work. I don't see you guys because A, I'm driving, and B, I use Waze to keep track of real-time traffic. Even if you weren't using Waze, I'm really happy you're not watching while you're driving. So there you go. I'm sure a lot of people are in the same boat. It's not even light outside. I'm depressed just looking at this picture. He's up before the sun. And that's just no way to live. But thanks for listening. Everyone that listens or watches, you can show us how you or watch or listen to the show. Just record a video or take a picture of yourself or your setup, post it on Instagram, Google+, Twitter, or Facebook, and use the hashtag HowIWatchTNT, and we'll find it.
Quartz says that a new mobile game called Sea Hero Quest tests spatial navigation skills and might help prevent or diagnose dementia. Now, the 2.4 million research subjects who downloaded the game have racked up the equivalent of 9,400 years of gameplay that scientists are now using to study Alzheimer's. Because there's not enough funding for the study of this or most diseases, the mobile game is relatively inexpensive, and it's an inexpensive way to study Alzheimer's. And some neuroscientists are already saying that the accuracy of the current research greatly exceeds that of all previous research in this area. Their aim is to create the world's largest crowdsourced data set benchmarking human spatial navigation.
The game trailer was really depressing, by the way. If you watch it, it's like by the end I was like, but it's a cool game. I love any game that like A is engaging, which this game definitely is. I'm definitely going to play through it more. And B is doing something good for research in the process. Like it's a win-win.
Yeah, so I downloaded it too. You can download it on your iOS or your Android device, and it was actually designed in with the scientists and the game developers from a place called Glitchers designed it together. It's you might have heard it because PewDiePie also promoted it.
I didn't hear it because PewDiePie.
You didn't?
No, I get most of my news from PewDiePie these days, but I did not hear about this one. This one escaped me. It basically, and I'm only like a few levels into it, but essentially it tests your memory by showing you a map of kind of your path, how you get to this endpoint, and then basically the map goes away and you have to kind of navigate off of your memory of what you saw. And then it's a little bit later, you're given like a flare gun. You have to shoot towards the direction you think you remember coming from. Weird little kind of brain twists like that. And I'm sure over time it gets more and more complicated, but really cool. I love that they were able to kind of combine those things to, create meaningful research data. That's really important. TNT records live every Monday through Friday at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, 11 p.m. UTC at twit.tv/live. You can be part of the show by emailing us at tnt@twit.tv. You can always leave us a short voicemail at 260-TNT-SHOW, and you can find us on Twitter. We're at Tech News Today TV.
It's that time of year again. We are working on our best of episode for all the shows on Twit this year. Please visit twit.tv/best of to submit your favorite moment of 2016.
It really is best of time, isn't it? Oh, my goodness.
Yes. Fill out the short form with the show name and the episode number and the time code. Basically do our work for us. Thank you.
Yeah, a little bit of the work for us.
And if you want to subscribe to the show, you can do that at twit.tv/TNT. And if you want to tweet at me to tell me what other kinds of work you can do for me, I'm at Megan Maroney.
I'm Jason Howell on Twitter. Thanks to our technical director, Brian, for pushing the buttons. Thanks to Burke for scrolling the words and helping us out in other ways here in the studio. Thanks to Kevin for editing and making us look awesome, hopefully. And thanks to you for talking tech with us today. We'll see y'all tomorrow. Bye, everybody.